All right. One more spot. One more. One of those days. All right, well, let's see, spot number 3.
What time is this? Pretty early. As usual, got a lot to do today. Sarah and I both have to go into Nanaimo, go to a doctor. I gotta possibly get my hand sliced open, which is gonna be a real pain in the ass once I commit to that. But anyway, quick thought this morning before I forget. Trail cameras, cell phones, security cameras, radios. How many times we heard about people, all of a sudden all the power went off, they know their batteries are fully charged up and everything died, right? So if that's the case, then why is it the IR beams keep these people away? Well, why don't you just shut the sucker down? Do you know what I mean? There's so many contradicting points when it comes to what everybody's seeing and witnessing in the world. So many. Like it's almost we'll see one day, maybe one of you out there is going through the patterns already. I don't know. I want to. I just haven't got time yet, and I really, really want to. And meaning I want to look at every single strong pattern, list it out. Actually, Roy Dye and I already made plans to make a book with just for that purpose, just for the patterns that all of you honest people around the world have shared here and made us all become aware of. So the pattern of fully charged batteries dying instantly, and then the power coming back later on. That's an in-your-face pattern mentioned numerous times by so many people around the world. So if that's the case, if everything we are experiencing is due to these one particular group of, I'm going to call it people. I don't give a shit what anybody thinks. I'm calling them people. If it is just that one group of persons, people, bush people, forest people, whatever you want to call them, then how come so many people, when they place infrared lights or cameras around their dwelling, around their property, it works. That doesn't make sense to me, right? For whatever reason, let's just say the battery draining pattern of electronics, it's a strong pattern. Well, why can't you just drain the power, shut the power off of any of these infrared light sources that may be making you stay away from this rural dwelling? Making any sense? I hope I am. I'm not quite awake yet, but you picking up what I'm putting down? Doesn't make sense. So much doesn't make sense to our average programmed brains is kind of frustrating, right? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Everything takes so much time to figure out. And my brain wants to figure everything out at the same time. It's frustrating. I probably have a clinical label, three or four letter word label for what I got, right? Now, because I want to know it all, I want to solve it all. I want to fight all the bad guys. I want to have fun. I want to create a better life. I want to feed kids. I want to help people. Everything's frustrating so much. But anyway, that's a little contradicting, right? If these people had the power to willfully shut the electronics down, the batteries on numerous sources of us while we're present in that same space they are, why do our simple electric powered trail cameras, IR lights work to keep them away? See what I'm getting at? Or is it them? What else? Remember the Boneyard, Alaska? Brought that up a while back, posted a picture of all those bones, and I was like, how can this many prehistoric carcasses be in one spot? And a bunch of people here flooded me with, it's a natural disaster explanation. Okay, that's fine. But guess what? The man in Alaska with that place called the Boneyard, he was on Joe Rogan podcast stuff. I follow this guy's Instagram. Very interesting. How come amongst all of these carcasses piled up are there perfectly sawn, surgically near sawn, precise, saw-cut femur bones, etc., hip bones of these prehistoric animals? Right? And this guy's at odds with the Smithsonian, apparently. I haven't fully followed him yet. I haven't even listened to the podcast he's been on, but I've seen enough of his posts to know that there is some crazy ass shit going on with that pile of carcasses in that one small particular area that he is excavating while he gets gold. Original gold miner, I think. It's pretty crazy. Zero explanation so far, right? Humans weren't even supposed to be around there. And here's these surgical perfect cuts on all those bones. Another random thought I think about not often, but comes up. So, what do we got? New people, new emails. And I'm doing what I can do right now. Right now, I'm just doing the minimum I can as I get geared up to make sure I can follow through with doing some very big things when it comes to this. But I've just got to keep my nose to the grind. Now, I better shut my mouth and start getting some more voices heard. This is titled, Thought It Was a Black Bear. Said everybody. Hello, Steve. You can use my name, Eric Schneider, as I'm 65, and I'll give a flying F what people think or say now. You know, it's too bad we couldn't be taught that as children, right? But good for you. Welcome to the club, man. Had an experience when I was 11 with my dad, who had been taking me hunting and fishing since I was 3 or 4. We go fishing for brook and rainbow trout in small streams and brooks. Lake and rainbow trout in lakes. We hunted grouse, woodcock, ducks, and geese in the fall, and whitetails and black bear in December. My dad started me with a .410 shotgun shooting trap at 7 and teaching rules of hunting and cleaning your weapon. My experience happened the year he got me a .32 Special Winchester. So I was excited to finally have a real rifle to deer hunt with. We were in Danbury, New Hampshire, one of his favorite spots. He sent me up a ridge where we had hunted in the past. The sun wasn't up yet, but just starting to get light out. The plan was he would head further up the ridge about 1.5 miles and try to drive something towards me where I was perched on the rocks. I was scanning the ridges, and there was a good-sized brook running down in the ravine between the two ridges. I started to hear something splashing about in the brook below, but it was still too dark to see very far. I could hear the water and rocks being moved, so it got lighter. I knew it wasn't a deer, and I thought a bear was moving rocks. I stayed quiet and still as daylight was getting brighter. I slid off the back of the rocky ledge and tried to quietly move closer to the noise. I quietly got on belly and crawled up to the edge and looked down to the noise. And I saw what I thought was a big black bear in the brook. I brought the rifle up, and as soon as I aimed down the peep sights, it quickly stood up on two legs, turned around, and looked straight at me with huge, glaring eyes. So, there's a huge curiosity part for me. How do they do that? How in tune are you, right? Human beings have been looking at these people coming up behind them for how many times, and they know. And they just spin around and look right at you, right? It's amazing. Sorry for the interruption, but I can't help myself. As it first moved, I tried to squeeze off a shot, but felt like I was frozen. I watched as it dropped back down and then jumped out of the water, and about 20 yards up and landed on the opposite side. Whoa. One more time. I watched as it dropped back down and then jumped out of the water and about 20 yards up and landed on the opposite side and dropped on all fours up over that steep side of the ravine faster than anything I've seen. 20-yard jump? Holy shit. I lay there shaking, wondering what I'd just seen, and now I knew it was not a bear, as when it stood, its legs and arms were far too long. I've seen bears stand, and they have short, bow-legged rear legs, and when they run, their fur ripples as the front legs hit the ground back to the rear legs. This thing was huge and solid. I could hear it crashing through the trees even after it went down the opposite ridge. I was still frozen for about 5 minutes. My heart was racing. I finally calmed down and went back to where I was supposed to wait. My dad came back. He didn't see or hear any deer and said something spooked them out of where they usually bed down in both places. We went back to the truck and had lunch. I asked what else is bigger and black like a bear, and he asked why. And I told him what I saw in the brook. He said, only thing bigger than a bear are moose. And I said, we have some moose we have seen moose in swamps while duck hunting. I again said I saw this thing stand up on two legs, but at least twice as large as the bear one of his friends had shot the year previously, and that bear was 410 pounds dressed. You must have seen a large bear. They can go over 600 pounds. I could see he was getting pissed. This was not a time when in the 60s, if I backtalked him, I would get backhanded across the face. I never said anything about it again. Steve, I want to thank you for having a safe place to tell our experiences. I've been watching for about 3 years now and have heard a lot of details that match up what I saw in 1967. I play video games. The clan in D2 has 8 guys who live in Hawaii, and they're talking about the biggest island, and one guy was said that he saw a Bigfoot, but he called it something in his native language that I can't remember. I then told my story for the first time in 50 years, told them about your channel, but also provoked me to write in mine. Be safe, as I know more than just... Be safe, as I know more than just your government and ours are also watching you. Yeah, they're watching all of us, those sleazy, filthy bastards. Anyway, man, I absolutely appreciate you. Absolutely appreciate you and the time you just donated. Time of life you just donated to everybody through me. And there's all those usual strong patterns in there again, right? Sneaking up on when they're in the creek bed. Just like my grandfather. Just like I don't know how many people. Especially in British Columbia. Especially British Columbia. It's funny when I'm walking along the river, steelhead fishing in some of these places by myself. I know it's too early for bears to be out. I'm not really overly stressed about black bears that much anyway, but I do find that I look down a lot as I'm cruising along. I just kind of look down because I just want to go fishing. And if, let's just say, I am about to come up upon something in a river on the side of the river, I almost like I would just want to give it lots of time to become aware of me while my eyes are down and leave. Just leave me alone, you know? But why is that? Why, when these people are in a river or creek bed, what is it that makes that their Achilles heel for us coming upon them, right? And another thing too, when our firearms are pointed at them, they react like they're telling us that yes, our guns will F them up. Without a doubt about it. 110%. Our firearms will screw them up. Without a doubt. How do we know? We know from their reaction. Same words that people said, don't do it. You pulled that trigger, I'll kill you. Really? That sounds like somebody scared talking to me. Like, to me, that sounds like somebody scared talking. Don't you dare do it. What are you panicking about? It's not going to do anything to you. You're going to kill me anyway, so what are you stressed about? It's just a gun. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of acts of intimidation they pull on us simple human beings when it comes to various methods we may possibly be a threat or hurt them, right? They're telling us that they're scared of us. But then in other ways, they're telling us they're not scared at all. It's very confusing, right? There's so many flip sides to this, to the characteristics, if they are the same beings that we're talking about the whole way through, which I don't think so. Now, here's a short one. Huge puzzle piece. It's the title of this email. Steve, via mind speak, the Sasquatch have stated that they can go where Jesus is. This according to what was written into you. This automatically disqualifies them from being Nephilim. The Nephilim were the product of those cast out of heaven. They cannot return. That piece of puzzle fits. Regards, Rick B. Taylor. I think you're probably on the right path, Rick. That's all I got to say on that one. I think you're probably on the right path. We'll see what comes. Excuse me. All right. This is titled Bigfoot and Lights. Hi, Steve. This is Marilyn Lentz again. Marilyn, I hope it's okay to use your name. With a few more stories. You read my story last week, and my son Sean shared it with all 5 of his sons. He was so excited about hearing it, and he and my husband Bob still haven't described just what they saw. One more time. Sean shared it with all 5 of his sons. He was so excited about hearing it, and he and his husband Bob, and my husband Bob, still haven't described just what they saw. Well, maybe they will. This is Sean's story. About 5 years ago, while hunting north of Mans Creek Reservoir in west central Idaho, Sean and Dave, his wife's uncle, went hunting for elk. At the time they parked the truck, a group of hunters came running out of the woods scared to death. They said there was something big up there. Sean and Dave shook it off, started up the trail. Something scared those hunters off the mountain. This is a remote area not many go to. Dave and Sean split up after a while, and all of a sudden they heard a loud, roaring scream. This scared both of them. I tried to get Sean to write a story, but he wouldn't. He wanted me to write it for him. He was so excited about telling me about it. Dave found Sean as fast as he could, and they went up onto the summit. Up here, they found a lot of animal bones, like a feeding area from something. He said the bones were all over the top of that mountain. They went back the following year to the same place and heard nothing out of the ordinary, and all of the bones were gone off the ridge. Sounds a little strange to me. A few years later, 2 people disappeared from a few summits over northeast of that summit. There was a 29-year-old man with a filming crew doing a documentary on some cave or mine, and something scared him, And he ran right over the summit, and no trace of him has been found. That's kind of creepy. The other person was a woman, excuse me, keeping camp for a group of hunters. I think she was in her 50s. The hunters went out while she was taking care of the camp with her dog. She knew the area and was a hunter and woods person herself. When the hunters came back to camp, they were gone. They did find the dog later, and it was okay, but they never found the woman. That area is large, and the police, there are few. They just said they didn't have the manpower to do a good search for either one of those people. These were both on our local news. In about early 1960s, I saw on the news that there were several eyewitnesses of a Bigfoot sighting that went between the cars in the parking lot above Lucky Peak Dam. Went in between the cars in the parking lot. Wow. This is about 5 to 10 miles east of Boise, Idaho. I was telling Clinton, a neighbor boy, about it, and he said 2 nights earlier he was fishing on the Snake River and saw a huge Bigfoot on the river bank. This scared the living daylights out of him, and he ran home. We live in Nyssa, Oregon at the time. Nyssa or Nyssa, N-Y-S-S-A, Oregon at the time. Nyssa is a border town between Oregon and Idaho, just separated by the Snake River. That's about 60 miles from the sighting in just 2 days. It's kind of nerve-wracking to think of a Bigfoot in the Treasure Valley. Clinton was only about 12 years old, and that happened after dark. The Lucky Peak episode happened in the middle of the day with all those witnesses. Wow. In the early 1980s, I was married with 4 children. I was working days and Bob was working nights, and he always called me a visit each night. One night in August, I was talking to him on the phone and looking out the kitchen window when I saw 5 large, round, bright lights across town. I told Bob what I was seeing, and he said it must be the lights, excuse me, at the Snake River Stampede. This is in Nampa, Idaho, a yearly rodeo, but it seems strange that I'd never seen those lights before. We're talking about 6 miles away. They were all in a row, and suddenly they started moving and went up and out of sight. I told Bob what I was seeing at that time. Thanks, Marilyn. Marilyn, you are a treasure wealth of knowledge. Appreciate you sending all that in, big time. That parking lot sighting, so I'm guessing there's a bunch of people. I think that's what we meant. There's a bunch of people that I saw. Excuse me, I wonder how many of those people are here, or have been here. Because I don't think we've had anybody write in about a broad daylight going through the parking lot in the middle of all of us sighting yet, but I'm sure it's coming, right? I'd imagine if some of those people are still around, they're probably watching this channel, but it won't be the first time that one of these people, hairy people, have just cruised right through broad daylight in front of people and not giving a flying shit. Years ago, I mean, we're talking years ago, it may have been not too long after I had my very first visual face-to-face. There was, what was the name of the news at the time in Vancouver, British Columbia? I think it was NewsHour or something. I'll never forget it. It was on NewsHour on Vancouver. National News, whatever it's called. Anyway, on the Sea to Sky Highway. This is probably about, if I had to guess, to get to these rock slides on the right was you're leaving Squamish, British Columbia, going north to Whistler on the highway. You go past the last traffic light, cross the river, wind around, going up, lake on the left, going straight uphill, and those rock slides on the right there. The news crew went there because this large, hairy, upright giant went right across the highway and went straight up that rock slide in front of all the traffic. And they had a few people talking about what they saw. I'll never forget that. Broad daylight, crossed the highway right there, and did not give a flying shit and power walked straight up that rock. I remember them saying, no human being could have done that. No way. As in, power walking straight up the mountain, not even faltering, right? I'll never forget that. I remember that. This made me go, holy shit. And still today, Obviously, I lived up there for years. Still, I was there just last weekend. Excuse me. I can't drive up that chunk of highway without fully looking on the right. Can't stop. Can't stop myself. What else? Sarah's ex-father-in-law delivered bulk newspapers. I think it's like 1 to 3 in the morning or 2 to 5 in the morning from the city of Vancouver, and would drive up that same highway all the way up and over to Pemberton, dropping off the bulk newspapers, Pemberton, Whistler, Squamish. And he seen these things cross the highway, the Sea to Sky Highway, I think 4 different times. That chunk of highway is so hot. Well, the whole area, right? The whole area's been on fire. It's ridiculous. And I know, here's another funny one. I'll keep going while my memory's ripping on this stretch of highway. So, a friend of mine has a construction crew, big time contractor in Whistler. And I know his whole crew really well. A bunch of real good guys. And there's a British guy there who's labored for him for quite a while. Real nice guy, matter of fact kind of guy. Not an outdoors guy, not a hunter, not a fisherman. Whistler guy in a mountain biking and skiing. And we're sitting there bullshitting, and this topic comes up, and he just says, "Oh, I seen one time." As he's eating his lunch, we're like, "What? Where'd you see it?" "Oh, driving home south at Daisy Lake in the dark, about 10 o'clock at night." And we're like, "What? No way. What happened?" He explained the bend, which I knew what bend he was talking. And he's going down the highway, coming around the corner, and he said this great big huge thing on 2 legs stepped out, and then he was coming for headlights, so it stepped back out of the way like this. And he went by it. He says the thing was huge. I'm like, "Oh, cool." And he went back to eating his lunch. Like, right? So many people. So many people. It's so many people. It's amazing the power that whoever it is has the power over us. It's frustrating and amazing at the same time to see the power that whoever it is has held over all of us when it comes to truth. It's amazing. It's almost depressing in a way. It's real shitty. Because imagine the wealth of knowledge that exists for real, and we don't have any fair chance or crack at it. At all. That's bullshit. Don't you think? Is there anybody else out there as frustrated as me when it comes to that fact alone? That there is a group, an entity, whatever, who has that effing control over us, all of us. This topic is such an easy example of that. It's the easiest one that I can throw down publicly every single day because I'm a stubborn prick and I'm not going to stop, to prove flat out that we are being blatantly lied to and manipulated in such a severe way from the time we're frickin' toddling. Sorry. Getting back to sharing voices. But it's true. We are being treated like we are such frickin' brain-dead dumbasses. I don't want to be a brain-dead dumbass anymore. I want to be right there and know everything. I want a fair crack at knowledge. I was given this lifetime. I was given this lifetime. I wasn't given this lifetime for anybody else. You know what I mean? Babbling, sorry. Caffeine. Here we go. Oh, hold on a minute. That's red. Let's mark this as red here. Here we go. What's this one? No time for a recording. You can say my name. I am Don White. I usually go solo camp. The night of March 2nd, 2024, I was in a new location, and it was in the Marion County, Arkansas, part of the Ozark-St. Francis-Sylamore Wildlife Management Area. Sylamore Wildlife Management Area. I had my camp set up atop a ridgeline. It was a deer camp that was used repeatedly. All was going fine. I fell asleep after all light was gone from the sky and the stars were shining bright. I was startled awake. I heard what sounds like 2 buck deer ramming their racks together. 99.9% of all bucks have shed their racks by now down here. Instantly, the sound changed to that of trees being thrashed and shattered. with sounds of metal on metal at times. No motor sounds. No, not a tornado. I started thinking, no, 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 as in pleading. Then I changed my thoughts to demanding, no, no, no. I said in my head, you're not allowed to make me afraid. You are not allowed to scare me. I'm only here to camp. I'm not a threat. I mean you no harm. The sound stopped. But I continued. I come here in peace, and so may others of my family. We mean you no harm or just respect. I kept repeating phrases like that for several minutes till I calmed down. The noises were very loud and only lasted for about 20 seconds. The sounds were to my southeast, down over the edge of the hill, out of my sight, approximately 30 yards away. There weren't any odd smells or vibrations. I sleep on cushions on the ground, and my tent is a screen room. I like to see out. I didn't see any trees swaying. No time to consider recording these sounds on a cell phone, even though it was inches from my head. I didn't have any other issues the rest of the night, and this was before the moon rose, so it was between 9 p.m. and 1 a.m. I've heard you share others say it sounds like a skidster or bulldozer going through the woods. This was really close to that. Has anybody been able to record these sounds? It happened really fast. Well, after daylight, I did walk down over the edge and walked around a while. No damage worse than what the armadillos cause. Steve, thank you for sharing everyone's experiences. Through you is how I have learned to react and not allow beings to stop me from doing what I love. If my name shows up in the missing list, we'll know. This tactic won't work with all. Don in Arkansas. All right, Don, thanks for that share. I'm glad you're using that, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. Yesterday when I got out of my truck, I said it out loud. But I said a little more graphic, though. Sometimes I can get a little hot. So just leave me the F alone. I'm going fishing. Leave me alone. That's how I said it, and that's what I said out loud yesterday. And I don't know if anybody noticed, but I was uneasy yesterday. So when I went fishing, I have 3 native friends who have seen these beings on the same river that I steelhead fish, okay? And believe me, when you're by yourself, I didn't bring the dog yesterday because Sarah wanted the dog for something yesterday. And I went alone, and when you know, and how many tens of thousands of you listening right now, you know what I'm talking about. But when you know, and nobody can change that. There isn't a human laugh in existence anywhere that can change that fact. And it can frustrate me at times, because sometimes, especially this past week, I mean, I haven't looked at my phone for over a week. I just can't. I just need a break from that damn phone. But having it turned on, and I'm getting overwhelmed and flooded with people. Anyway, that's another topic. But I can get frustrated at times when you just want a break, man. You just want to go walk in the woods peacefully, fish, concentrate, live at 100%. Zero bullshit, but then in the back of your head, you'll have this thought of the possibility of being absolutely terrified and scared shitless to the point of near heart attack at any moment, at any given moment where you are, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now that can frustrate me and make me a little angry, like, leave me alone. And that's why I will growl it out when I get out my truck. Anyway, yesterday, where did I videotape yesterday? I was on the river. Oh, and I finally bought one of those things that goes on your chest and holds a GoPro so I can record fishing. Way easier. I never had that before. I was trying that out. I'll probably put a clip of it on here. But when I left the river, I drove up the logging road again, heading towards home a little bit, and then I hung a left and went on another old deactivated logging road, and that put me up above the river. That's where I was sitting, up above, and I kept looking behind me. I'm like... And I'm not like that all the time. You guys are seeing how many videos I've made in the middle of frickin' nowhere. I'm half asleep reading, no concern at all. But then there's the odd day where I'm just going like this. What's going on, man? There's lots of elk around there, so I'm just saying there's probably an elk. I'm not the guy that thinks there's a Sasquatch behind every tree. I'm not the guy that thinks every single sound or shadow is a frickin' Sasquatch. I'm not. But the odd time, there's just something's going on behind the back of my neck. And I wasn't feeling 100% relaxed yesterday the whole morning. Sometimes maybe you think it's just your nerves, what you read every single day from tens of thousands of people, maybe? I don't know. Who knows? It's a bit of a babble. I'm just adding to speaking out loud to possibly prevent your day being shattered or one of your favorite places being ruined, right? Right. Now, what's this? This title, Eye to Glowing Eye, 3 feet away. Steve, love your channel and all that you're doing. You're providing those of us who have encountered these beings with the knowledge we need to deal with our experiences. That's what we're doing here, big part of it. Please not share my name or info. I serve others in a professional role, and their reaction to my testimony might hinder my ability to serve them well. Those who do not know this truth have hard times accepting it. Yes, they do, and that's why we don't promote the channel. You can't. Either you know, or you don't. My situation is as follows. I grew up in East Texas and have lived in Texas most of my life, except for periodic international relocations. As far as I can remember, there were stories about these beings in our portion of the state. These stories were not generally common, but if one paid attention to the old-timers and those who lived in remote areas, the reports were there. Yes, they were, and they still are today, big time, especially in East Texas. Examples. The gamekeeper on a hunting lease that my parents shared with their company/employer colleagues warned us children not to stray off into the woods alone because, quote, the hairy men might get us, end quote. We ignored that as a scary story to frighten us. At times, we would hear weird howling from down in the adjoining river bottom. The adults explained it was, quote, panther screams, end quote. I remember thinking that panthers must be pretty large to make sounds like that loud. During one company customer hunt, an out-of-state client ran back in panic to the hunting lodge, claiming that a gorilla had chased him off of his deer stand. I remember my father and the other company man laughing about it, thinking that the poor man just wasn't used to hunting. A friend of mine in high school claimed that he and some buddies had seen a, quote, werewolf, end quote. They had been driving down a remote country road when what they first thought was a cow lying down in a pasture rose up on 2 legs and screamed at them. He claimed that it looked just like a horror movie Wolfman. Unfortunately, this happened before my own experience, and I did not take him very seriously. I remember him being uncharacteristically frightened when he told the story. Here's my experiences. Number 1. October 1968, after a Friday night high school football game, my girlfriend and I had parked my car along a roadway that had been recently cleared from the forest to expand her neighborhood. We were talking for the last few moments we had before she was due back to her parents' house. The broad road bed area was light-colored sand, and the moon was full and very bright. This part of the forest was near a major river bottom, and in an area that had always had a spooky local reputation. However, I cannot recall anyone ever saying why. While we talked, I suddenly got a strange feeling and turned to look out my car window, only to look straight into the face, only to look straight into the face of a huge black figure, hunched down to stare into my car. That would just suck. I was completely shocked and had no idea what this thing was. This was in 1968, and at that time, none of us had ever heard of Bigfoot. Its eyes were very large and were glowing a pale greenish yellow. They were almond-shaped and slightly slanted up on the outside corners. The head was huge, rounded on the top, and sloped directly into very broad shoulders with no neck. I was noticing all this either calmly or in shock until my girlfriend started screaming bloody murder. That's when I snapped and realized it was time to leave. I started the car, sped away, and took my now hysterical girlfriend to her parents' house. That was a tough explanation to make to her parents. I was just going to say, that must have been really nice. Imagine that. What'd you do to her daughter? As was our custom, my buddies and I met up after our dates at a local diner. I told them that I'd seen a monster. And of course, as the dumbass teenage boys we were at the time, we rushed right back to the scene to see it again. We parked in the same area and waited. We never saw the monster, but we kept seeing what looked like large black dogs running down the white sand road clearing. My buddy, who was in the driver's seat, finally turned a spotlight on one of these dogs, only to show that there was nothing there. It had just vanished when the light came on. We finally gave up that night, but we returned the next day with more friends and our hunting rifles. We searched the woods, but found no clear sign of the creature. We did, however, find several cattle carcasses in a pasture behind the woods, near a power line right away that led down to the river. I came back again later at sunset and searched more. I remember finding some faint tracks that looked to have 3 clawed toes. But honestly, the pine straw was covering the ground there, and those tracks might have been my imagination. I returned again on the following day with another friend, unarmed. We searched briefly, and as we were leaving the woods onto the roadway clearing at sunset, I got the same strange feeling again. I turned around and saw the creature following us, about 10 to 15 yards away. The sun was setting behind it, and that made its silhouette very clear. Judging from the Yupon bushes beside it, Yaupon bushes. Never heard that word in my life. It looked to be about 8 to 9 feet tall, with very broad shoulders, a rounded head, no neck, long arms, and long, oddly slender legs. It was slowly swaying side to side, facing us. I remember not being frightened, just shocked. It had followed us through the woods in complete silence. My buddy freaked out, and that made me realize that it was time to leave. We ran to my truck and drove away. Now, for some secondhand testimony from my girlfriend, this experience seriously unsettled her. She was not handling this well. But now her story gets very strange. Her parents' house backed up to a steep and broad creek bed that also ran through the area where we had seen the creature. I now know that this point is significant, hearing that these things travel along waterways. She called me late one night to tell me that a, quote, wolf man, end quote, had come to her window and talked to her. The next night, she said that a glowing ball of light was floating around in her bedroom, and that there were short gray men with heads like ants walking around her bed. I am ashamed to say now that I thought she was losing her mind. At that time, none of us had ever heard of orbs, gray aliens, etc., and I had no idea what to do or how to help her. I keep her on the phone, and I tried to calm her down. By the time I arrived, the events had ended. We were afraid to tell her parents, weirdly, and we kept the stuff to ourselves. How the F? How do we get so conditioned to do that? Who conditioned us to do that with truth? Right? You see my frustration? Who the F conditioned us to keep so much truth inside, don't talk about it? Okay, we're going to give you this life. We're going to create you to be a human being. And when you come across this really crazy shit, you are not going to talk about it, okay? Right? It's frustrating to me, but it's also possibly a key to figure shit out, right? Sorry. We were afraid to tell our parents, weirdly, and we kept the stuff to ourselves. I was frantic to help her, but neither of us had a clue of what we were dealing with. Both of us were too young and stupid to alert adults or parents to the situation. Fortunately, these odd events stopped, and she was no longer in danger. Fast forward to the recent past, I have had multiple experiences of whistles, howls, including large wolf howls. We have no remaining wolves here. Partial sightings, etc., on my hunting lease and while camping in the National Forest. These things definitely exist in the woods of East Texas. It seems that I can feel whether they are present in the area when I arrive, where I arrive to hunt or camp as soon as I step out of my truck. But maybe I'm just imagining that. I have no way to verify that. I could share more, but my letter above covers a few main points. Please keep doing what you are doing. It helps me know what I need to know and to still be able to enjoy hunting and camping while avoiding these beings. In the past, I tried to contact the well-known Bigfoot research groups for help and advice, but that was a total waste of time. Your channel and the info you share helps a lot. If you ever come to Texas to visit Dr. Ketchum, drop me an email. I know where these things are, and maybe we can share more info. Dr. Ketchum is the real deal. Stay safe out there, alerted and careful in Texas. All right, man, I will get a hold of you. For sure. I will. Actually, instead of that being titled as red, I'll title it, Get a Hold of. Get a Hold of. All right, there we go. I just have a handful of more things I have to knock off here. I know I probably sound like a broken record when I talk about I'm behind. I just have to accept that's just the way my life is, right? Because I'm living about 10 different lifetimes in one. And I feel like I'm running out of time every single day, and I am. So I really need to get done what I want to get done this lifetime before it's over, right? So, my frustration, but I don't stop. And sometimes I just have to, sometimes I just have to throw the effing phone and turn it off and leave it alone so I can keep ripping. But anyway, there's some other things I was going to add today. And of course, when I read everybody's experiences, my wheels are just spinning in my head. And then I forget about mentioning different items. But one funny one yesterday, I was so tired by the time I got home from fishing. And when I had my truck repaired a week ago, there's a new, the wire cluster, the whole main wire harness cluster, which connects to the computer, whatever the hell's going on in there, failed, had to get a new one. And when I got my truck back, the seatbelt ding-ding thing goes for like 3 minutes. You can't stop it. And I remember I was just wanting to videotape, show you guys driving in that deep snow and show you the mountains. I just like to show everybody as much as I can when I'm out. And I remember thinking, oh man, I'm gonna have to put some kind of a sound over top of this or something to get rid of that annoying seatbelt sound. And I completely forgot to by the time I got home and just threw it on there. I don't pre-listen to anything either. I just threw it on here and deliver it to all you guys. So apologies for yesterday's seatbelt alarm that probably took everybody over the edge. Whoopsies. But that's why. I can't make it shut off for about 3 minutes. Now, what else have I missed here? That was all fairly recent, I believe. What do we have? All right, let me read this. Mark this as read. Newer tree bends and another secondhand story. Hey, Mr. Steve, you read my other email, and I'm sending another with a few pictures of some neat tree bends in the St. Mark's National Wildlife Refuge from North Florida, and another story told to me by a trusted acquaintance. The story I heard is fairly recent, and the guy that told me was an eyewitness to a large footprint found near the Choppy River. It seems his good friend saw a swamp ape, a large one, panicked, and got the hell out of there ASAP. Excuse me. Did what he could to collect himself, and then called his friend to come check it out with him. They went back, and after looking around, he found a track that looked like a giant human print. The guy that told me the story didn't believe in these critters until this instance. Seeing how his trusted friends saw it, and the state of mind he was in at the time, and he himself finding the print, he is now a knower, if that's a word. The pictures I have are from what looked to me to be self-made ground blind, but not one human being could make. These trees were bent, not cut, and twisted into place. One of these I took pictures of was from several years ago on the opposite side of the road to the other, probably 200 yards from each other. One was off the road about 60 yards. The other, the newer one, was only about 30 yards off the road. The older one, I found a deer carcass behind it. The animals had picked it clean. Thanks for your hustle and sharing everyone's story. All right, there we go. I can't see myself just yet. That's a little odd, isn't it? It takes you a couple seconds to really look at the photos. And that reminds me, all of a sudden, oh yeah, they are all bent, twisted over. Weird one. I'll put these in, and that just reminded me, I didn't share any of yesterday's photos, did I? Whoops. Too much going on yesterday. Maybe I will, by the time I get this online, hopefully I will share up the footprints, I believe, from yesterday. Must suck. It must suck for the people who send in their experiences and I forget to put the photos in. I don't do it on purpose, all right, you guys, but I know I do it fairly often. Sometimes it's tough, right, when you got so much on the go, especially when you travel for the day. And then you read about, I don't know how many emails I read, 5, 6, 7 at times, and then maybe one of the ones earlier in all the shares had photos attached, and then I just start reading, and then the part about saving the photos to my phone and then putting them in Dropbox doesn't enter my mind. Oops. So hopefully I remember to do that. But that's it. I'm going to cut this short. I think short, and we got to get going. We got to go into see the doctor, see about getting ourselves rebuilt. Nothing too serious. There's going to be some serious inconvenience for about 8 weeks or so after we finally get this figured out. Anyway, I've got this thing going on in my hands. They're screwing up my tendons and pulling a finger or two in, and you can't straighten them out again. And it's a friend of mine, and my best friends just had the same thing a couple years ago, and he went in. And what they do is they get some kind of a shot and they shoot it into your finger where the tendon's screwing up. And then it sits for a bit, and then the doctor went and just flattens your digits out again, then puts one of those metal braces around it, and it's supposed to hang like that for 8 weeks. But my friend, I forget what he did. He did something and snapped the tendon off. And he's a first responder too. And they ended up, he just said, screw it, just cut it off. And they cut his finger off. Oh my God. And I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to go get that dealt with. And I believe I'm going to have to get it done in both of my hands. And that's going to be really shitty, so I really have to time when I get this done. And what I think I might do is, I'm right-handed. I'm going to get my left hand done first, see how that goes. If it's a success, then I'll time it right for the right time of year and get my right hand done. I don't know why they can't just cut it open and excuse me, do whatever they got to do in there to free up the tendons, but whatever. It's getting to the point now. I'm waking up with half my hand feeling numb and a lot of pain nonstop. So I guess I better break down and do some other shit, right? There you go. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Get it off your chest, get the knowledge shared, and quit being... What's the word? I don't even know what the word is. Stop reacting the way you've been programmed to. All right? This is not a funny topic. There's nothing funny about it. Nothing. There's no reason to keep our mouths shut about it. There's no reason to keep our mouths shut about truth. Period. All right? And I'm not trying to make anybody feel guilty for, well, we didn't say anything about it. We're told not to say anything about it. It's just the way we've been conditioned. It's not your fault. We've been conditioned to react that way when it comes to some very important truths that are going on with our existence, and it's bullshit, and I'm fighting it. I'm fighting it back. So, follow my lead. It's okay to talk about it. Doesn't matter how crazy you think it might sound. It's okay to talk about it, all right? So, and if you don't want your name attached to it, that's fine. That's okay. Just get your truth out, all right? And let us have it. All right? There's a lot of us that need your truth. Okay? So, share my story at howtohunt.com. Or tell my story at howtohunt.com. What else? I think that's about it. I'm going to be, actually, while we're in Nanaimo, we get to go to a store called Costco. I don't know if that's in the States or not, but it's bulk food, good deals, and that's where Sarah starts her shop for the hungry kids. So I forget the total of mouths fed so far from this channel. We're getting there. We're getting up there, and there's going to be a whole bunch more fed again. I'm guessing by tomorrow. So today we load up after the doctor, and then she goes to town in the shop here and deals all the food. And then she goes out and she has got her method, fail-safe proof method of deciding who's going to get this food. And she said, just this morning, one of the kind young ladies all by herself, she tries to get people to nominate who really, really needs it. And that was over a week ago. She brought food to that one house home, and that young lady said flat out, please don't nominate me, because we were lucky enough to be chosen. We're still good. She said, we're still good today. And that was over a week ago. So there you go. That's what all of you did. All right? You're making children's tummies full, people happier, and you're helping them. And think about the valuable lesson these children that are being helped this way are learning early in life. Right? To not depend on the government, and that their community is taking care of them. And they're going to learn that lesson early, and hopefully they're going to pass it on as they grow up and realize community again. Right? There you go. There's my day of babble. I got to get going. Probably driving people freaking nuts talking. Be back tomorrow.